Hello and welcome to Coffee with Cow at Learn International. I am Sheila, the Learn International intern, and here with me today, our guest is Jesse Walden. Hi, Jesse.
Hey Sheila, how you doing?
Great, I'm great. Thanks for being here today. For those of you that aren't aware who Cow is, she's our Learn International mascot and she travels everywhere we go. Coffee with Cow is a podcast that aims to share and capture stories from students and international educators. And today, Jesse is our guest, and he's here to share about his time abroad. Jesse, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am currently a photojournalist working in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I work for our NBC affiliate out here, KOB, and that I kind of got into journalism in college. I was studying filmmaking at the time, and that's where I took a few different international documentary classes where I got hooked up with Learn International.
Can you tell me what program you did with Learn International and what year it was?
So that was 2016. I can't remember the name specifically of the program, but we visited Ireland, and we got hooked up with different sort of subjects for us to follow around and kind of learn about their lives. So Jordan Kopreski and I were teamed up, and we both, ahead of time, we got to choose our subjects. So Jordan Kopreski and I both really resonated with Michiel Sloom, who was he was a county councillor in Donegal, Ireland. And so we flew over and met him, and he was everything we had hoped for. It was quite an interesting man, quite a character, and it was a blast. We got to hang around with him for a few days, got to film his life, interview him, and he was just a very entertaining and energetic individual for us to be lucky enough to spend some time with. And so doing that process, doing the documentary, was really helpful for me in terms of getting my foot in the door with my current job. Because I was able to take that and a few other pieces I had put together while I was a student, and I was able to go and show the people there at KOB that I am competent, that I enjoy storytelling, and that I'm know how to edit, and I know how to use a camera. But more than that, I kind of get how to take real life and edit it into a story fashion. And that's something that's, really important in the news industry.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much you stood out when you presented your documentary. Actually, it sent me the link to your documentary that you made in Ireland, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Your team captured his personality so well. I feel like every time I meet someone, I either would imagine myself, what would it be like working with him, or being in an office or a work environment with him, or maybe sitting down and having a beer with him. And I feel like he'd be someone I could definitely sit down and just talk about whatever is on his mind. He seems like he's very interesting and captivating in that sense. So I had the link, and I wanted to, I'll share it with the listeners. I'll let the listeners be able to have access to watch it. Speaking of some projects that you have done, could you share one of your favorite projects that you've worked on, whether it be in school or at work?
Sure. So obviously one of my favorite projects in school is the documentary that they're already seeing. But as far as recently, I've done so many fun different stories. I'll just talk about one of them.
Great.
So my roommate, Kevin Schulmeister, currently he's furloughed with like everyone else. But before Corona happened, he was a assistant location manager working for the film studios out here in Albuquerque. So he had worked on a few different Netflix productions, a few different NBC Universal productions, a few, just different companies come here and film things. Anyway, Kevin was able to get me hired on a few of those too. Just in on my time off, I like to go work on them because that's still something I really enjoy. Um, so while I was on set for a Netflix movie, I actually met this guy named Brandon Barassa, and he was a snake wrangler or wildlife consultant.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't really think about it before, but it makes a ton of sense that whenever you make a movie, if you're a big, studio and you have lots and lots of scenes outside, you got to hire someone to kind of patrol your border and make sure that snakes or any other critters are picked up and that they don't kind of get in and scare people. So I really hit it off with Brandon, and I talked to him. I was like, hey, this is a really cool job. And he was very excited that I worked in the news because he has been wanting to start kind of creating, I would guess, some sort of educational sort of little TV show about wildlife and snakes and reptiles. So we started meeting up, and so one of my stories I was able to make for the news is kind of like a little mini, I guess, personal portrait of Brandon. And I thought it was so interesting because not only is Brandon a snake wrangler, but Brandon's wife is as well.
Wow.
So together, they're just so. I think it's just very cute and romantic, but it's also just like wonderful for like they're both doing the same job, and they're both of them have these jobs that are booming because of the economy. And now Netflix and NBC are hiring them all the time, where they used to only get a few months of work a year. Now they're working almost year round. So Brandon kind of took me on a little tour, a day in the life of him, and I just followed him around with the camera and watched him catch some snakes, and we just kind of talked about what it looks like. And then so you can see the whole day's worth of work on the news becomes like a minute and a half, but it's very fun. And I think you can see what a kind of, we're just kind of joking around the whole time. So we're both kind of giggling throughout it, but it's very fun. And there's like snakes in it. And it's like, oh, this is very visually interesting. And it also, I think, has a bit of, human heart in it too. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty proud of that guy.
That's very interesting. I bet you meet quite the characters when you on assignment when you're creating and developing projects. So it's such a cool experience that you got to kind of step out of your own element, your own day-to-day life, and go into someone else's and see what their process is throughout their day. So that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, for sure. I agree. It's always fun getting to go out and just meet people are just so different. We're all watching Tiger King on Netflix recently. Mm-hmm. And, I haven't met anyone as crazy as that, but that gives me that same feeling that I get so many times when I'm out and about in the world and I just meet someone and they're like, oh yeah, I do like 10 things and here's my business card. And it's like like what a character this is. It's like, oh yeah, I do like bidding announcements and I work for the circus. And like you meet people here in Albuquerque all the time who seem to be doing a million things, and they're kind of involved with a little bit of everything. And you just go to public events enough, or you go, unfortunately, to crime scenes or whatever. Different natural disasters we have, like fires, we have a decent amount here. And you just see, the sort of, it kind of opens my eyes to the less serious nature of life, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've become less cynical and less jaded since doing this job because I see it's like, oh, firefighters are fighting fires, but they're also joking around the whole time and they're all just buddies hanging out. And of course, that's how we are too. Me and the reporters hanging out, like getting Taco Bell and waiting around, kind of cracking jokes. And then it's like, okay, time to be serious, time to go on TV. And then we do our jobs, we do it, and then we get back home and we just watch Tiger King. So.
Yeah, that's very true. And I appreciate the one thing you mentioned when you met, I forget the name of the snake wrangler, but you said he was only working technically part-time, but since I mean, not just him, but other people in his industry, the fact that you could use your platform to help him gain more work or more income throughout the year by just using your platform to publicize his work, which is very cool on your end, if you think about it that way.
Oh, for sure. That's something I actually love, like in the back of my head, knowing that we're doing with my job. We do this series once a week called Pay It Forward. And that's basically a kind of feel-good piece we do where we find someone in the community who's just making the community a better place. And we meet up with them and surprise them with $400. So that's something I enjoy that we get to do, is kind of shedding light on people who are actually making our city a better place. But then beyond that as well, I love getting to show, good causes that are working for things, or even people who actually, probably the best thing we have is when someone's been a victim of something, whether it's a man-made crime or like a fire or a flood, we almost always have a GoFundMe set up for them. And almost everyone we ever do a story for gets their GoFundMe fully maxed out.
Wow, that's great.
And it is wonderful because so many people don't have insurance, or, no one's prepared to have horrible crimes happen to you. And eventually, things will be all right. Justice will be served. But until that time, most people live paycheck to paycheck. And if you can't afford to save up money in normal life, when you're severely emotionally and financially distressed, you're going to go massively more into debt, and that may spiral you yourself towards crime. So this is something that I'm really happy that we're able to do. I feel like it's actually beyond the public information and education aspect of news. I feel like this is the most good we do, is showing people who need help, and then allowing we are the power of the people, because we can direct the sympathy or the wrath of the people towards wherever we find injustice in the world.
So the story that you just shared, Pay It Forward, I can be the first one to admit that sometimes I get overwhelmed with news, and a lot of the news is negative news. And it's nice to hear, to have those little bits to keep you coming back to listen and to brighten up your day. So I'm glad that you're a part of that as well, especially what's going on right now with COVID-19. Sometimes I feel very overwhelmed on the consistency of the cases of numbers and the deaths that are happening. And from our previous conversation, you mentioned that you are an essential worker. Would you mind sharing what it's like being on the front line right now?
Sure. Mostly we're being smart, and I'm able to work from home most of the time, because most of our interviews are like this. They're through Zoom or Skype or FaceTime. However, things still happen. Crime still happens, which that really surprises me. Crime went down for about 2 weeks when Corona started, but then it shot right back up to where it was. And I would say people might even be more brazen now. So you have to, when things happen, you have to go out into the community. And we got masks now, thank goodness. So that's not as scary going out in public. But before then, I was like, don't touch me. Like people are like around. People, I feel like, are not taking this as seriously as they should, because there's so many people out there. And of course, the people who are out in the world right now are not the ones who are taking it seriously. So they kind of are joking around. And if they see me as someone from the news or from the media, they kind of try and come up and talk to me, which is normally fine. And it's kind of nice getting to talk to people, or sometimes it's annoying and you just shoo them away. But a lot of these people are like naysayers, or they're like wanting to ask you like about the coronavirus media conspiracy. And it's like, that's fine, you can talk to me, but like stay 6 feet away from me. And they're like, like I ain't gonna get you sick. And it's like, you don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it takes 2 weeks to incubate, but also I could be sick and getting you sick. Like, stay away from me. And anyway, that's a big issue. But most of it's great because when we're going out, sometimes it's for press conferences, getting to interview the governor or the mayor, just having to see what they're having to say, and just making sure everything's as clean and as safe as we can. Like this mic stand right here. This is what I use every time I have to interview someone, because normally we have little lapel mics and I would hook it up on their shirt right here and kind of run it down. And then we just kind of do that over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But this is way too close to person's space, and like being on someone's clothes, like if that person's sick, it'll definitely get on the mic. And then I'm spreading it to everyone I interview. So this way, like this mic is way closer than it would normally be if I'm interviewing someone, just because of Corona. And it kind of sucks in terms of audio quality, because you want your mic as close to the audio source as possible.
Of course.
But for now, we're just like, yeah, like almost always the best audio quality we can get is if we're doing Zoom or Skype. Because if it's in person, I'm going to have to scooch this microphone way back there. And it's kind of not really any better than just using like onboard camera mics. But Zoom and Skype keeps us safe. I have an editing rig here at my house, so I'm able to fully do my job, send it in via the internet using FTP sites, which is kind of like professional versions of Dropbox. And so that goes into the news station, and I edit 2 or 3 stories a day. But as far as being on the front lines, when we're out in the public, it's either really nice stories or really sad stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the really nice stories, we're talking about Pay It Forward.
Mm-hmm.
We've adjusted Pay It Forward during this COVID outbreak to be a little more pragmatic, I would say. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is KOB takes their $400 and pays a small restaurant that's open but struggling. Mm-hmm. You know, open in the terms of like drive-through only usually. So we order $400 worth of food from them, and then take all that food and we deliver that to nurses and doctors, people who are medically right at the front line. Mm-hmm. So a couple of weeks ago, we visited one of the screening testing areas. We turned Balloon Fiesta Park, which is this huge sort of amphitheater park area we have in Albuquerque, where the International Balloon Fiesta happens every year. Oh. So we turned that whole giant area into a screening area. People drive through it. They don't have to get out of the car. They just roll down their window, and one of the nurses will stick a swab in their mouth or up their nose, depending on what they're doing, and then send them on their way. And they're able to test people a lot safer that way, just keeping people in their cars, keep them, you know, not having to contaminate an entire building. We still have, obviously, hospitals full of people, but this is one of the things they're doing to help try and slow that spread. And so it's nice for us getting to be the media and getting to, one, donate our money, but then showing how we're helping people. And that's kind of like part of the idea, is we want to encourage people to try and think that way. Like that's a lot of what we're doing now during the outbreak, is trying to lead by example most of all. We're trying to demonstrate all the time on air how safe we're being, and trying to show people how they should be behaving. And so, you know, we don't shake hands with each other. Mm-hmm. We hardly touch each other if we can. And wear masks when you go outside. Wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap. Just cleaning everything. Like we have disinfectant wipes everywhere, and you're just wiping everything down, and trying to not leave my house unless I need to go get groceries. Anything else is unnecessary. And, you know, you got Netflix here, you got things you can do, you got video games to play, books to read, you got podcasts to watch. So it's not the worst thing if people would just be smart and be, I would say, kind to each other. I think that's a better way to think about it. When we think about being kind, that has at least for me, I feel like that has a less negative overtone than like, do your duty, like be
Yes.
responsible. It's more like, no, just be kind to other people. You staying home is kind, because if you're young, like young people don't not get it. They get it. They just don't suffer as horrible symptoms as old people get it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, young people can die too. Young people have died from this. But more than likely, if you get it, you would live it through like it's a cold. And then, but the issue is you can give it to older people who might die from it.
Well, I want to thank you for being an essential worker and being on the front line, and also going above and beyond. I'm conscious in social distancing, and I only go out once a week to grocery shop, and I do my exercise and my walks by myself. So I feel like I'm doing my part. It feels like I'm not doing enough, but I'm very inspired by what you're doing and how you're contributing to social distancing. So thank you. Thanks for all your efforts on that end. And thanks again for being part of our podcast. We really enjoyed, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I know listeners will enjoy what you have to say about your time abroad and how it affected your life moving forward. So thanks for being here.
Oh, definitely. My pleasure.
And I also want to thank the listeners. You can find Learn International on social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'll send a link on social media where you can find this specific podcast, and along with the other Coffee with Kyle podcasts. And our hashtag is LearnINTL. And while you're social distancing and you're looking for something else to watch, maybe you're sick of your Netflix queue right now, I'll also add in some links for Jesse's work. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the documentaries and the videos, so I'm pretty sure that you will too. Keep a lookout on the platforms for maybe some short quizzes that I might use from this podcast, and there might be some prizes involved, so look for some questions on social media. I'd like to tell you to have a great day, Jesse, and thanks again so much for being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You too.
Yeah, see all the listeners soon. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.